Hey, Cityview students, what's going on? Welcome to our online service. We are so thankful that you're here. If you're in this room right now, text your friends, tell them to join. We're gonna play a game together. We're gonna give you some announcements, and then there's gonna be a short teaching. And so, one, I just wanna say, so thankful to be with you this summer, and I'm excited for all that God has. And so, I've got some awesome people here with me. Give it up for these guys, whoop, whoop. And we're gonna play a little game. It's a game that you've probably played before, and I know that you've been told that if you're a good Christian, you're not supposed to lie. But in order to win this game, you gotta be good at lying. Molly, you gonna be good at lying or no?
I'll try.
Okay, she'll try. And so we're gonna play two truths and a lie. When you're sitting there on your couch or wherever you're at, man, you gotta figure out who's lying, all right? I've been told in the past that I'm good at this game, so we'll see. Molly's gonna go first. This is Molly Garrett, everybody. Give it up for her. Okay, two truths and a lie. Hit us.
Okay, my first one, I've never broken a bone. 2, I've been to 5 national parks. And 3, I have 2 dogs.
Those are all really believable. This is difficult. You guys got any thoughts?
I think I know.
What do you think?
I like her dogs.
Yeah,
Dogs.
You know her dogs?
You don't know? I thought you were gonna be like.
He knows.
helpful.
He's gonna ruin this for us. I'll go because I literally don't know.
He.
You have only been to 4 national parks, not 5.
No.
Is that not it?
No.
I'm terrible at this game. Rachel, you got any thoughts?
I feel like she does have 2 dogs, which
All right.
means she must have broken a bone at some point.
No, it was the 2 dogs.
What?
You only have 1 dog?
Yeah.
What?
Did you used to have 2
What
dogs?
a really like
Samuel.
kind lie.
I know, it was lame.
No, it's good. It like shows your character that you're a really great person.
Oh, thank you.
All right, here we go. I'll go. All right. I was gonna say as one of my truths, but I already said this off camera. I almost died in Enchanted Park, but you guys already know that. So I have been to Haiti 10 times, and what is your face? I've been to Haiti 10 times. I have a dog named Whiskey, and I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old babies.
How many months apart are they?
12 months.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, hit me.
I think it's the 3rd one.
What that's a lie?
I didn't know you
months is
had
insane.
kids.
Yes, yeah, I've got 2 of them.
Yeah, he talks about it on the Zoom call.
He did?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Rachel, what do you think?
I can't. I know the answer,
Yeah,
so
you
I
do know the
can't.
answer.
I can't.
Aiden, what do you
say.
got? What do you
10
think?
times to Haiti, that's crazy.
What's your answer?
3rd one.
That I don't have 2 kids?
That they're 12 months apart. A year
Yeah,
apart.
you're right. I only have 1 kid. He's awesome. His name's Cal.
Nice.
You'll get to meet him someday.
You've been to Haiti 10 times?
Yes.
And your dog's named Whiskey.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks, bro. I think so too. All right, Rachel, what you got?
Okay. When I was little, I was obsessed with the crocodile hunter. Thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Okay.
I have a really good homemade queso recipe. So I love queso, so you all should ask me for it, and I'll bring it sometime.
I'm gonna say that's a lie, just so you prove to us that it's not a lie.
Oh
No,
no!
I'm just
Have you seen my Pinterest board?
I haven't seen your Pinterest board.
recipes. All about recipes. Oh, and I'm missing an organ in my body.
Oh.
Oh,
okay. No
I
way.
thought you meant like a piano.
No, I don't play the piano.
Oh, wait, what was the first one again?
I was obsessed with the crocodile hunter when I was little.
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess
so I
it's that
believe-
one.
You don't know who Steve Irwin is?
You don't know who Steve Irwin is? Listen, you gotta
is
know
he
it.
like the Australian nature explorer guy that goes
Yes,
around? and-
yes.
Is he like the
Yes.
also? You say it like he's not
Is he
important.
the...
He's like the most
He
famous
was.
person on the planet ever, other than Jesus, in the
Alright.
80s or 90s.
I believe that. What's the second one again?
Queso, my best queso recipe.
You went on for too long about that.
I'm calling
number 2.
Yeah, I'm saying number 2's a lie too.
it's
I think
queso.
you
You
should
make,
ask
I think that
before-
you make really good guacamole
Or salsa.
or guacamole.
That's actually, yeah, the guacamole's true. I'm actually lactose intolerant.
So the
I
queso's a
can't-
lie? Whoa!
I told you I was a bad
You were
liar.
no, I feel like you were a good liar. You just like, you know, the Pinterest comment. I was like, I don't know.
But I actually
don't
do
know.
have like an obsession with food on Pinterest.
Okay.
So that is real. You should
Awesome.
go look at all my
Has your
recipes.
organ gone missing? Or like...
Has
did
it
you-
gone missing?
Yeah, it just disappeared.
Did you have to get like extracted or whatever in the past like 11 years?
In the past year, I had an organ removed.
Oh. Never mind.
awesome.
I thought I remember something about that, like back at the YMCA, but never mind.
No.
All right, Aiden, what you got, bro? Hit us.
Let me pull up my notes because I didn't memorize this.
Aiden had 3 lies because he couldn't come up with any truths, but we made him come up with some truths.
Basically. All right. So, depending on like how much like I eat that weekend or whatever, I weigh around 110 pounds. I've broken both of my thumbs. Can't snap. I've been to 5 different countries, which isn't that interesting, but I couldn't. I think I just gave myself.
So can you still hitchhike? Like, show me a thumb.
I'm pretty sure the left one's like the
You
form.
can't straighten
Is that
them?
straight? Is that straight?
Straighten, do this. Do that.
I think I can.
Those don't look broken. And I could not possibly imagine a scenario where you broke
You can't
both of them.
snap? Didn't
But
you
did you break
snap
both of them at the same
earlier?
time?
Oh, I remember I said I can't snap. Like,
Did you break both at the same time, or like?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
You want me to tell you how I broke
you
it?
can do the motion though.
I'll just keep
Is it a
the lie
truth?
or truth going. I'll make it up if
you
it's
broke
not
your
true.
thumbs. You weigh 110 pounds when you eat some, or
Depending.
don't
Like,
eat
I
some.
said around 110 pounds.
Okay.
I
and
believe
then
that.
The third one was what?
5 countries.
5 countries. All right, I got mine.
Alright,
Okay.
You've only been to 3 countries.
that's wrong. Does anyone else want to guess?
That's wrong that you've only been to 3 countries, or that's wrong that that's
I
the
think
lie?
That's wrong. That's
That's the wrong
lie.
one. Ah,
That's
terrible at this game.
yeah.
Okay.
You have not broken your thumbs.
Y'all are both wrong.
I knew it was the first one, but I didn't say.
Really? You weigh 110 pounds?
No, that's the lie.
That's the lie.
Oh, okay.
How much do you weigh?
Like 140.
140
It's like 110 pounds,
It's
bro.
the soccer legs.
You need to put on
basically.
I was gonna say, what are you?
I also eat so much. Like I have like 10 bowls of cereal a day. You can ask my mom. She gets so mad at me.
Well, it's cereal. You need to eat like 10 steaks a day.
That's
It
Anyways.
helps me grow. That's why
I
I'm
like
so
it.
tall.
They're more expensive.
Okay,
You
well,
can't
hey.
tell from here, but I'm like 6+ feet.
Yeah,
Which
he's at
means
least
I'm
6.
like 6'4".
Yeah, I'm 7'9". So, I mean, these guys are all pretty short
Sure,
compared to me.
tall. No.
Okay, so, hey, that was 2 truths and a lie. Good job. Y'all are great liars. I don't know if
Thank
that's something to be proud about, but you're really good liars. I feel like I didn't do a good job, but next time. Hey, we've got a couple announcements. Again, if you have not gotten our calendar, let us know. Ask your parents. Maybe they got an email. We're gonna put it on social media, but if you haven't gotten it and you haven't seen it, make sure you let us know. It's got all summer long events that we're gonna be doing, and we wanna see you at all of them. So make sure you find that, make sure you get that, make sure you print it out, put it on your mirror, and write scripture on it, put it on your refrigerator, put it anywhere that you'll see it. But Molly's gonna hit us with one of those announcements. Molly, what you got?
So on June 14th at 12, we're gonna have a picnic at Old Settlers Park. So you bring your own food and chairs and bring all of your friends, and we can't wait to see all of you in person for the first time, so please come.
Come on. Is that high school or middle school?
High school.
Yeah, it's high school. High school only. Middle schoolers, we love you. You're gonna have your own special events. In fact, Aiden's gonna tell you about one in just a second, but high school only. Good job. Like, you should really do this. Newscaster for a living.
I don't know about that.
Okay. All right, Aiden, what you got, man? You got an announcement for us?
Yes. So on June 12th, we're gonna be having like a game night. We'll be playing Fortnite and Minecraft. I have no idea how this is gonna work, but Austin's got a great plan. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, just hop on your Xboxes, PS4s, just play PS4. You're weird, but just keep doing what you're doing. And then PC as well. So yeah.
Is that middle school or high school? Good job. Hey, listen, that was really good. Is that middle school or high school?
Middle school.
Okay, middle school only. All right, so here's how this is gonna work.
Wait, can I play too then?
Sure. Yeah, if you're in middle school. Listen, here's how this is gonna work. We are gonna basically get you guys online. So this is not at the church. If you wanna go to each other's houses and play, if your parents are cool with that, socially distant, do it. But it's gonna be all online. We'll send you more details through an email and then also on social media. Rachel, what do you got for us?
Speaking of social media, Austin is going to be doing some live devotionals on Mondays and Thursdays on Instagram at 10 a.m. So they're going to be really quick, maybe just like 5 to 6 minutes long, just a quick word from Austin on those days. So go ahead and tune in for those because I know y'all are on there anyway. So
Killed it. Yeah, so those Insta Devos, listen, they're gonna be on there. We're gonna post them. They're not gonna be in story form, so even if you missed it at 10 o'clock, they'll be on there. Just a way to stay connected to God, because at the end of the day, fun is important, getting together is important. Parents, if you're watching, we wanna keep your kids safe throughout the summer. I know that it's been a wild season for all of us trying to figure out how to gather, and so we're gonna do all the things necessary that we can to keep your kids safe and make sure that we're being socially distant and following all the right guidelines and rules. But at the end of the day, we want your students to grow closer to Christ. And that's one of the reasons I want to make sure that your students grow. I want to make sure that we all, at the end of the summer, love Jesus more than we do now. So, and I know that's the same heartbeat for all of us up here and all of our elders and leaders here at Cityview Church. So, hey, thank you guys. Y'all are amazing. If you're watching, stick around. We're going to jump to a short teaching, 15 minutes or so, and we hope you enjoy it. Cannot wait to see you guys in person. Bless you guys. Y'all want to say bye-bye?
Bye.
Later. Hey, Cityview students, man, welcome to our teaching time. So we're going to walk through a series called Summer Stories. And we're gonna bounce around all over the Old Testament and the New Testament and walk through some stories that I think are important for the times that we're in, whether that be COVID-19 or obviously the rioting and the unfortunate events of our time that are happening right now that we have to kind of talk about. Like, we can't ignore them. If you've been on social media at all, you can't ignore what's happening in the world. And so what I don't want to do is I don't just want to hit topics. What I want to do is turn to God's word, and I want us to find value in that and be fed by that. And so, man, so thankful for you being here tonight and watching our first online service. I hope you enjoyed our little game time. And whoever you're sitting with, whether it's a friend or your family or a little dog or you're alone, man, just tune in. I believe God has something he wants to speak to you through his scriptures, as he always does. And so we're going to walk through Matthew 14, verse 22. And this is a story that if you've been in church for any period of time, you've heard before. All right, this is Jesus walking on water. And if you've been in church, you've heard this story. And unfortunately for us, sometimes like we grow a little desensitized to stories we've heard a lot or phrases we've heard a lot. But this is a miracle. This is an unbelievable story. And it's only by Jesus being the Son of God that this thing's going to happen. And so I want to set it up for you. So Jesus has just fed the 5,000. Again, a miracle that is unbelievable. His disciples are there. There's 5,000 men, probably 15,000 women and children. And man, he feeds all of them with just a few fish and a couple of loaves. And it's this crazy miracle. And that's where we pick up, is right after that. Jesus and the disciples are standing there at this, shoreline. And Jesus says to them this. This is verse 22 of Matthew 14. Sorry, we don't have screens. So if you've got a Bible, grab one. And this is Matthew 14, verse 22. It says this. Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. So Jesus says, hey, listen, y'all go hang out on the boat. Y'all just start heading that way. And I'm going to go up here and pray, which probably was a little confusing for the disciples, because at the end of the day, Jesus doesn't have a kayak. He doesn't have a john boat. He doesn't have, pair of water skis laying around. And so they're probably thinking, okay, well, how's Jesus going to get across? Anyways, they obey and they take off on their boat, and Jesus goes and prays. And what I see in this scripture right away is it says in verse 24, it says, but the boat at this time was a long way from land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. So you've got to put yourself in the position of the disciples. They're in this little boat. This isn't like a yacht. This isn't a cruise ship. This is a small wooden boat that's man-powered, right? They're rowing. They're taking turns rowing. And it's late in the evening. They've been going for it. They've been rowing, trying to get to the other side. And what's happening is the wind is beating the boat. And there's waves and there's wind, and they're in the middle of a storm, and it's wearing them out. And I can just imagine this. I've got a little tiny john boat that I take out occasionally. And when it's windy, like, you can't control it. It is a mess. It's hard to get across a lake. And so just put yourself in the position. They are tired. They're worn out. They're probably hungry. And they're in the middle of this storm. And I wanted to stop here and say that maybe in the past season of your life, you felt similar. You felt like, man, I just feel like I'm fighting against the wind. I feel like I'm fighting against the storm. I feel like I'm giving all I've got, and it's just not working. And I look at our times, and I look at, I can't get on Instagram or Facebook or any social media platform or turn on any TV without being just burdened by what's happening in our world. And realizing, man, we've been in a storm, whether that be COVID-19, whether that be the loss of innocent Black people's lives, whether that be riots, whether that be all the chaos and stuff that's going on in our world right now. And I look at it and I go, man, it just feels like we're in the middle of a storm. It feels like we're in the middle of the waves just beating our boat. And I look at these guys, and they're tired. And I know for you, you're probably tired of COVID-19. You're probably tired of racism. You're probably tired of seeing the same things over and over and over again. But this is where the story continues to go. This is verse 25. It says, Verse 25, and in the fourth watch of the night, which is basically early morning, all right? So it's probably still dark. The sun might be peeking over. They've been at it. They've been rowing. They're tired. They're hungry. They're ready to get to bed. And it says that in the fourth night, he came to them, this being Jesus, walking on the sea. Okay, you have to stop and put yourself in these shoes. You have to stop and put yourself, I don't know if you can put yourself in Jesus' shoes because you're not Jesus and you've never walked on water, but put yourself in the shoes of the disciples. Jesus comes walking on the water, walking on the sea. This isn't just like a Bible story you learned when you were a kid. This is a miracle. This is crazy. Jesus is walking on the sea, and this is how the disciples respond. It says, but when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, it's a ghost. It says they cried out in fear. I love this. Like, Jesus has to have a sense of humor because he could have just walked up to the boat and said, hey guys, check it out. I walked on water, hopped in, and they could have kept rowing. But he didn't. He stops, I don't know how far away, let's just say 40 yards away, enough to where they can see that it's someone, but they don't know for sure that it's Jesus. It says they were terrified and cried out in fear. Now, if you're like me, like I can't just read this and go, okay, cool, and move forward. I've got to put it in my terms. I've got to put it in something that I'm terrified of. How would this look in my life if Jesus were to just roll up on the water? And so I want to confess something to you. I am terrified of flying. I think flying was the worst invention ever made by man. I would rather drive or take a boat anywhere. I don't know why I'm afraid of it. I just hate flying. And so I have to put myself in these guys' shoes. Imagine I'm flying, sitting there with my beautiful wife, Jordana, and my little kid, Callahan, he's 2, and we're sitting there, and I've got a window seat. I don't know why. It eases my anxiety a bit to sit on the window seat. And I am sitting there, I'm reading my book, nervous, anxious, and I look out the window, and I see Jesus sitting on the wing of the plane. Right? This is an impossibility. And if you're like me, you're not going to be like, oh, honey, there's Jesus. Like the first response is Jesus Christ. And then my wife would be like, what are you so angry about? What's happening? I'd be like, no, literally Jesus Christ. He's on the wing. And it's terrifying. I would need 80 of those little brown bags just to get over that. It would be terrifying. Now you put yourself in the boat with these disciples. It's Jesus Christ walking on water. This is impossible. And so they're so terrified, they cry out, it's a ghost, not like Casper the Friendly Ghost, like a worse ghost. They're afraid. And it says this, verse 27, it says, but Jesus immediately spoke to them, saying, take heart, it is I, do not be afraid. Man, Jesus says, take heart, it is I, do not be afraid. What you need to know in the middle of the storm that we're in the middle of the chaos that we're in the middle of the brokenness that we're in, is that Jesus is willing to do the impossible to reach you where you're at. He's willing to walk on water. He's willing to come find you where you're at to say, hey, don't be afraid. It's me. I'm here. I've got you. And this is Peter's response. I love Peter. I resonate with Peter because I feel like we're similar. We're doubters at times. We fail a lot. If you're like Peter, we're all a little bit like Peter, but this is what Peter says in verse 28. It says, and Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. This is a really interesting question. Peter says, hey, okay, if it's you out there, command me to come to you and I'll jump off the boat and come to you. If I'm Peter and I'm in the boat, like my first question is not like, okay, if it's you, ask me to come out there. My first statement is, get in the boat. If it's you, why stand in the water when the wind's going? We're having trouble rowing, hop in the boat and help us out. But Peter has almost insight into his question. It's almost this like childlike faith to say, man, if it's God, if it's Jesus, ask me to come out there. Man, many of you in your faith journey, you have asked yourself, man, I don't know if God's real. I don't know if Jesus is real. I don't know if the Bible's real. I don't know if this whole church thing is for me. And what I want you to lean into is that Peter could have just said, it's not Jesus. Let's keep rowing. Don't worry about it. But Jesus had this intrigue, this leaning in of going, man, I want to know if it's really Jesus. I want to know if it's really him. I think Peter thought two things. The very first thing that he had to have thought was, it has to be safer in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the wind, in the middle of crazy times in the world. It has to be safer for me to be near to Jesus than it would be for me to stay in the boat with everyone else. I mean, he understands that if it's Jesus, it's safer to be out there on the water than it is to be in the boat. Now, here's how this translates into your life. There are going to be many times where you are tempted to stay comfortable, where you are tempted to stay in a place of everything makes sense, right? Like it doesn't make sense to get out of the boat. It doesn't make sense to step out in faith. It doesn't make sense to question whether it's God. It doesn't make sense. And so what Peter does, he says, listen, I don't care what makes sense. I want to be close to Jesus. And many times in your life, you're going to be faced with this choice of what makes sense or being close to Jesus. And a lot of times those things are going to line up, and sometimes they're not. And so I want you to lean into that. The other thing that Peter knows that we have to lean into is he says, if it's you, command me to come to you. He recognizes Jesus's godness already, right? Like this is Matthew 14. We don't know for a fact that Jesus is God yet. And the disciples don't know for a fact that he's God. They know he's performed miracles, but he's gone, hey, if it's really God, like if he commanded me to, then this is a possibility. Man, I want to tell you right now in your life that what is impossible and what you think you cannot overcome is possible with Christ. I know you've heard that scripture before, but let me hit on something really quickly. I feel sometimes, I've heard this so many times recently, man, you know, white people, people of all different colors asking the black community, like, what can we do? How can we fix this? Like, is there any way or is there any possibility that we can reconcile and that this can be something that we think about in the past, that we live in unity, that we live in harmony, that the things that are happening right now that are causing brokenness, that they would stop happening, that innocent lives would stop being lost for no reason at all. And for the color of people's skin, like that would stop. And I look at it sometimes and I get worn out thinking about it because I go, I just don't know. I just don't know if this is possible. And I know it is in the back of my mind, but I look at what's happening on the news and I look at what happens on social media and I go, man, this looks really hard. This looks impossible. Man, I want to tell you right now that the only way that reconciliation happens, the only way that we become living in harmony and in peace is through Jesus Christ. Like that's it. Not just going to church. We have to actively pursue these things. We have to actively jump in. Like, right, Peter had to get out of the boat in order to exercise his faith, in order to be near Jesus, in order to move closer to Christ. And so for us, we have to do the same. We can't just go, well, I hope that problem gets fixed and stay in our boat. We've got to actively step out and do this. So it says this, he says, command me to come to the water. In verse 29, Jesus says, come. So Peter got out of the boat. Man, Peter's awesome, right? Like he just jumps on the side of the boat. I can imagine the waves crashing around and he jumps on the side of the boat and then it says here that he got out of the boat and walked on water. Now I want to just give you a little bit of seminary here. So what happens in the boat probably is there's a guy sitting there and he sees Peter jump out on the water. There's Jesus on the water and he goes, wow. And the guy next to him goes, wait, wow? What does wow mean? He's like, it's an acronym. I just made it up for walked on water. They teach you this in seminary, all right? I'm just kidding. That's not true at all. It's not an acronym for walked on water. I just made that up. It's free, okay? Anyways, bad jokes, dad jokes. He's walking on water. Peter jumps out. He's walking on water. And it says, and he came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink and cried out, I messed this up. And he cried out, Lord, save me. Man, here's what I want you to understand. Getting out of the boat in faith to move closer to Christ and closer to who you're called to be doesn't mean that you have to do it perfectly. Man, if you want to see reconciliation and harmony, if you want to be an active part of helping the world become a better place, God is not asking for perfection from you. He's not asking perfection from me. He's asking for faith. Faith to get out of what makes sense. Faith to step out and move towards him and closer to him. And Peter does this, but it says that he takes his eyes off of Jesus. Man, I know this sounds cliche. It sounds simple, but this is true. When you take your eyes off of Christ, we begin to sink. There's nobody who's immune from this. There's nobody who gets a free pass from this. You will never lose your salvation if you have put your heart and your trust and you've confessed that Jesus Christ is Lord. If you've done that, you are saved. It says that you are sealed for eternity, that you'll spend eternity in heaven with Christ. But man, there are moments where we take our eyes off Christ and we can feel that sinking. We can feel that backsliding. We can feel that moment where we go, man, I don't feel like I'm close to Christ anymore. And we have to actively move forward and move towards him. So we can't just hate on Peter. We all do this at times. And this is what Jesus says. He says, oh, you of little faith, why do you doubt? Man, I don't think Jesus is mad at Peter here. I think Jesus, honestly, with a kind heart, with a kind face said, oh, why do you doubt? Like, man, I just want you to get it. I want you to understand who I am. I want you to know fully who I am. Why do you doubt me? And so Jesus asks us this question. He wants to know, man, why do you doubt? Like, I'm your God. I love you. I want you to pursue me. Trust me, life is better near me than it is staying in the boat where things are comfortable. And this is how we end the story, verse 32. And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Man, I like this. I want to highlight it because in this story, it's amazing, right? They get back in the boat, the wind ceased. There's peace. Jesus is in the boat, there's peace. I want to tell you right now that in life, sometimes just because you're close to Christ, just because you're pursuing Christ, doesn't mean that all your problems are going to be fixed. That's a false teaching. Man, the beauty of what the scriptures teach, this beauty of God's character, is that you will go through hard times, just like everybody else. But the beauty is that you will have an advocate, that Christ will be with you in all of it. So don't think that just because you seek Christ, like your life's going to be perfect. I've been seeking Christ for years now, and my life still has stuff that I'm going, man, I want that to be fixed. I want that to not be a struggle of mine, but it's just life. We have flesh, and that's the way it goes. We're not immune from these things, but in it, we have an advocate, and we have eternity to look forward to. This is the part where we're going to end. Verse 33, it says, and those in the boat worshiped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. So Jesus gets into the boat with them after this whole scene, this miraculous scene where Jesus is walking on water. They're terrified. He identifies himself. Peter walks on water. They jump back in the boat, and it says this. His friends didn't look at Peter and go, hey, Peter, that was awesome. Like, you just jumped out of the boat, and you had so much faith. I mean, I know you sunk a little bit, but you had so much faith that you jumped out of the water. Man, Jesus saved you. How cool was that? They don't look at Peter. Their address goes to Christ. It says, and those in the boat worshiped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. Here's what I want you to understand about this scripture and about what Peter has done. Peter's faith opened the door for his entire boat to worship God. What this means for you is that your life matters and your life counts. That the faith that you have, that stepping out of what's comfortable, stepping out of what is, what everybody else is doing and moving towards Christ and having faith in action, whether that be posting something on social media about reconciliation. I mean, I know today, as we're filming, everybody's posting these Blackout Tuesdays just to stand in solidarity and say, man, we don't know exactly what to do, but at least we can do this, and at least we can support in this way. And we're open. And I know that some of you are going, I don't know if I want to post. I don't know if I want to jump out of the boat. What if people think I'm weird? Like, listen, if you move towards Christ and move towards these things, man, people are going to see your life and go, man, who's your God? Like, who do you worship? Because truly the Son of God must exist the way that you serve him, the way that you love people, the way that you serve the church. And so that's my hope this summer. Listen, you can't do this alone. You can't get across the ocean alone. You can't paddle alone. We need Christ, and we need those people in that boat that are going to worship God with us and around us. It's my hope for the summer is that we as a student ministry individually would jump out of the boat and collectively would jump out of the boat and go, man, whatever God would have for us, we're willing to go for it. That's my hope for this summer. Man, hey, thank you for sticking around with us. I don't know all of you yet, but I love all of you already. And again, man, isn't God's word good? Listen, you're awesome. Can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks, and hope you have an awesome the rest of the week. Bless you guys.